Hi folks, this is a video about the four-wheel drive system in the GMC Sonoma and S10. It is a touch button four-wheel drive activation. It's got high and low range when you're in four-wheel drive, so 4 low, 4 high, and then of course 2 high. I really hate the touch button. I don't know why anybody in their right mind would ever want to have that in a vehicle. It's simply saying, let's take something easy and reliable and has been used for 100 years like a lever and a cable and make it unreliable by adding a bunch of electronics to it. Fortunately, I've never had a problem with the push button, but the previous owner, to me, the actual push button switch module in the dash burnt out and he had to change that, and also the four-wheel drive actuator motor burnt, and that was like $700 to get that replaced. And so anyway, again, I haven't had any problems, but it's just a crazy, crazy way to do something. It just blows my mind. Anyway, I guess that's the way of the future. So here is a vacuum actuator, and this vacuum actuator is my old one that's damaged, and you can actually see the metal right here. You shouldn't. It should all look like that with the rubber all the way around it, but the rubber got torn, and what this is it's vacuum actuated. There's a vacuum line that goes on here, and normally that spring that you can see from my torn one pushes this little nub here forward, and that nub is connected to a cable that goes to the differential on my truck, and when this is forward, the thing's in two-wheel drive. The differential's not locked in, but when you hit the four-wheel drive button in your dash, it applies a vacuum to this port right here, which causes a vacuum to be generated in this rubber membrane behind it, which causes the rubber membrane to draw in like that, and it pulls on this metal nub, which pulls on the cable. So what was happening was my truck wasn't going into four-wheel drive, and I tracked it down to be this crazy thing right here. To get at that, you have to take the battery out, and the battery cover that's underneath there, take it out. And as fragile a design as that looks, and I'm telling you, that rubber looks very fragile to me, this one lasted 16 years. So, surprising to me, but anyway, I guess it seems all right. So that actuator is right underneath the battery, and a couple of funny things I'll tell you about it. There's a spring that actually holds the cable on to that nub right there. And this spring, I don't know where I can get the best zoom. Anyway, there's a spring there. And you notice it's got one piece of metal that kind of goes right through the center of the spring. Well, that piece that goes right across the center of the spring, that's the piece that grips onto the cable. So you put the spring on first, then you slide the cable in the end, and the end of the cable locks on that straight piece of the spring. This is the new spring that came with the new actuator, and I put it on, and what I found was the actuator would actually work properly. It would draw in, but the cable would slip off because this spring wasn't doing a good job of gripping the old cable. Now, maybe the old cable's rusted and worn, I don't know. But anyway, what I did do was I took it apart again. I put the original spring back on the new actuator, and it's worked fine ever since. So just a point to note that sometimes the new parts, well, don't work as well with as the old parts with the other old parts. So that's the story on that. And if you're trying to decipher whether it's your front differential not locking in or your transfer case is not locking in, here's an easy test. Always, when you're going to go into four-wheel drive, come to not a stop, but a very slow roll, like a walking pace, and put your truck in neutral while you're still rolling, and press the button to get you into 4 high, and then it should lock in both the transfer case and the front differential. But put yourself in 4 low as well, and that changes a gear in the transfer case. And if you all of a sudden feel that the engine's revving a lot higher for the same speed, like put it in 4 low and then start to drive. And if you find the engine's really revving super high, or you have all kinds of torque, like tire shredding torque, you're in 4 low. And what that means is the transfer case is working properly. So if you still don't have four-wheel drive or power to the front wheels, it's most likely this stupid thing right here, or the cable slipped off, and the differential's not locking in. So those are my tips. Also, never put it in four-wheel drive on dry pavement, only on slippery surfaces. And again, I never change it without the vehicle rolling very slowly. I'm sure the manual says something like less than 50 kilometers an hour you can put it in and out of four-wheel drive. Putting it out of 4 high into 2 high is probably not as bad, because all you're doing is disengaging some of the gearing in the transfer case, but I certainly wouldn't want to go into 4-high, and try not to do it while you're turning. Anyway, those are my 4-wheel drive tips for today. Have fun with yours.